Welcome to another journey into the past. Today, I venture to the quiet countryside of Norfolk, England, to uncover the fascinating history of St Olaves Priory. This often overlooked relic of medieval England hides within its stone stories of power, faith, conflict, and the lives of those who once lived, worked, and worshipped here. Founded in 1216, St Olaves Priory was established during a period of significant religious upheaval and growth in England. Its foundation is often attributed to the local landowner Roger de Skirning, who was the Bishop of Norwich at the time. As a house of Augustinian canons, the priory was part of a larger religious movement that emphasized a strict interpretation of Christian doctrine and monastic discipline. The Augustinian order, which operated St Olaves, was known for combining a communal monastic lifestyle with pastoral work in the local communities. They believed in serving both God and the people. The priory's dedication to St Olav, the patron saint of Norway, reflects the widespread popularity of this Norwegian king saint during the medieval period. But why dedicate a priory in Norfolk to a Norwegian king? To answer that, we need to briefly delve into the life of St Olav. Olaf II Haraldsson was the king of Norway from 1015 to 1028. He played a crucial role in the Christianization of Norway, but his reign was cut short when he was killed at the Battle of Stiklestad in 1030. Olaf was canonized as a saint a year later, and his cult spread rapidly throughout Scandinavia and parts of Europe. Churches and shrines dedicated to St Olav sprung up, particularly in England, where trade and cultural ties with Norway were strong during the medieval period. The dedication of the priory to this saint may also indicate connections between East Anglia and the Norse world during this time. Although much of St Olaves Priory now lies in ruin, its architecture reveals the importance and wealth of the institution in its heyday. Like many monastic buildings of the period, the priory would have had a church at its heart, with additional buildings for the monks' living quarters, a refectory, cloisters, and a chapter house. These were not merely places of worship, but also centers of learning, agriculture, and local governance. The remains that we see today include the priory's gatehouse, which has withstood the test of time better than other sections. It provides a glimpse into the architectural style of the 13th and 14th centuries. The design reflects the transition from Norman Romanesque to the more delicate and intricate English Gothic style, characterized by pointed arches, ribbed vaulting, and large, elegant windows. Imagine the grandeur of the priory at its height, its tall church spires visible from miles away, a symbol of both religious devotion and the influence of the church in medieval society. St Olaves Priory wasn't isolated in its religious activities. During the medieval period, East Anglia was dotted with monastic institutions, Benedictine abbeys, Cistercian monasteries, and other Augustinian priories. The Priory of St Olav was part of a larger religious network that held significant political and economic power in the region. The Augustinian canons were involved in managing vast tracts of land, farming, and producing goods that were vital to the local economy. But beyond the economic, their spiritual influence was immense. They were responsible for the care of souls, providing charity, education, and spiritual guidance to the surrounding communities. But the glory days of St Olaves Priory came to an abrupt end in the 16th century, during the reign of Henry VIII. Like many other religious houses across England, St Olaves was swept up in the king's infamous dissolution of the monasteries. This was a time of immense upheaval for the Catholic Church in England, as Henry sought to dismantle the power of the Church and seize its wealth. In 1536, St Olaves Priory was officially dissolved, along with hundreds of other religious houses across the country. The land, buildings, and assets of the priory were confiscated and sold off to local nobles and gentry. The religious community that had thrived here for over 3 centuries was disbanded, and the priory began to fall into ruin. Today, only fragments of St Olaves Priory survive, but they offer a powerful reminder of the site's long and complex history. The gatehouse, the most complete part of the priory, still stands proudly, albeit weathered by time. This structure is one of the last physical links to the priory's medieval past. The English Heritage Organisation now manages the site, which has been open to the public for many years. It's a quiet, almost forgotten spot, but for those who visit, it provides a tangible connection to the lives of the Augustinian canons who once lived here, and the many ordinary people who would have looked to the priory as a center of their spiritual life. St Olaves Priory, like many other monastic ruins across England, serves as a reminder of a time when religion was deeply embedded in every aspect of life, from politics and education to agriculture and art. It's easy to walk past these ruins and see them as mere relics of the past, but they offer so much more. They help us understand the societal shifts that took place over the centuries, the rise and fall of religious orders, the impact of the Reformation, and how the physical landscape of the country has changed as a result. But most importantly, they allow us to reflect on the people who lived during these times, their beliefs, their struggles, and their legacies. Look around, this quiet countryside feels almost timeless, doesn't it? But in the 13th century, this area was much more than peaceful farmland. St Olaves Priory, founded in 1216, was home to a community of Augustinian canons. They dedicated their lives to prayer, contemplation, and service to both God and the people of this region. The priory was named after St Olav, the patron saint of Norway, which seems curious for an English religious site. We'll explore the significance of that dedication shortly. But first, let's continue walking towards the gatehouse, one of the most complete structures still standing from the priory's heyday. Now, let's talk about the priory's namesake, St Olav, the warrior king of Norway. Olaf II Haraldsson, who ruled Norway in the early 11th century, became a key figure in spreading Christianity throughout Scandinavia. After his death in battle, he was canonized as a saint, and his cult spread quickly across northern Europe. Though we're miles from Scandinavia here in Norfolk, the priory's dedication to St Olav suggests strong cultural and possibly trade links between this region of England and the Norse world. St Olav was revered not only as a king but as a Christian martyr, and his legacy reached far beyond Norway's borders. During the medieval period, East Anglia was filled with monastic houses like this one, abbeys, priories, and monasteries that dominated both the physical and spiritual landscape. St Olaves Priory was part of a larger religious network in this region, with many of these houses holding significant political and economic power. The Augustinian canons here would have worked closely with nearby monasteries and the Diocese of Norwich, contributing to the religious and economic stability of the area. In fact, the priory would have been a key player in managing local agriculture, producing food and goods that were traded across the region. But as we all know, history is not static, and the fate of St Olaves Priory took a sharp turn in the 16th century. Like many religious houses across England, it fell victim to the dissolution of the monasteries under King Henry VIII. In 1536, Henry sought to strip the church of its wealth and power, and St Olaves was no exception. The priory was dissolved, its land seized, and its community scattered. What was once a thriving religious institution was reduced to ruins, and over the centuries, the buildings were dismantled or left to crumble. Today, St Olaves Priory is a shadow of its former self, but there's something peaceful about this place. These ruins stand as a reminder of a time when faith was central to every aspect of life. The gatehouse, the fragmentary walls, and the stones scattered across the grass all speak to a different era, one filled with devotion, community, and transformation. Though much of the priory has been lost, English heritage has worked to preserve what remains. Visitors, like us, are given a chance to step back into history and connect with the stories of those who lived and worshipped here long ago. Walking through these ruins, it's impossible not to think about the passage of time, the rise and fall of religious institutions, the changes brought about by the Reformation, and the ongoing efforts to preserve this place for future generations. St Olaves Priory may no longer be the spiritual center it once was, but its legacy endures. The stones tell a story of faith, power, and resilience, and as we stand here today, we're part of that continuing story. Now we're standing in what would have been the cloister, a central part of life for the Augustinian canons who lived here. This space was more than just a walkway, it was a sanctuary for quiet reflection and contemplation. Imagine the sound of footsteps echoing along the stone floors as the monks walked slowly, heads bowed in prayer or meditation, following the path around the central courtyard. In the middle of the cloister, there would have been a lush, green garden, possibly with a fountain symbolizing purity and life. The canons would have spent time here in solitude, surrounded by the open sky, yet enclosed within the protective walls of the priory. It was a peaceful retreat, designed to foster a sense of connection to both God and nature. Daily life here followed a strict pattern, with a focus on prayer, study, and work. The Augustinians believed that balancing these three elements would bring them closer to God. Early each morning, the canons would gather in the priory church for matins, the first service of the day, before the sun had even risen. From there, they would move through their daily duties. Some would tend the priory's fields, growing food to sustain the community, while others copied manuscripts or studied theology. The afternoons were often spent working in silence, maintaining the buildings or gardens, but always with a sense of purpose and spiritual devotion. One thing that might surprise you is how silent this place would have been during much of the day. The Augustinians practiced periods of silence as a way to focus the mind and soul. Communication was often done through hand signals, and talking was reserved for specific times. This silence wasn't just a rule, it was a spiritual practice, a way to clear away distractions and be fully present with God. Imagine walking through these halls, hearing only the rustle of robes, the turning of pages, and the distant echoes of nature. This silence was a way to cultivate inner peace and deepen their connection to the divine. As I wrap up my journey through St Olaves Priory, I hope you've enjoyed this walk through history with me. If you ever find yourself in Norfolk, I encourage you to visit this quiet, beautiful site and feel the weight of centuries beneath your feet. Thank you for joining me today. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more historical explorations, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on our next adventure.